Narayan. Welcome to Karma and Dharma. This is our first. It's our first lecture, video lecture, audio lecture, whichever way you're connecting to this. I'm super excited. I wanted to start right at the beginning because we haven't had an opportunity for a whole bunch of questions to feed off yet. So I wanted to talk to you about karma and dharma. Surprise, surprise, right? It's these two terms that get like sort of thrown around a lot, and I wanted to just get sort of clear on our common terminology so that when we're discussing it in the forum or we're discussing it together, if you're here this year at Niwas, that we can be on the same page, basically. Okay. And of course, if this lecture stimulates conversation and questions on the forum, I want to hear from you so that we can address them, so that we can let it build forward. Okay, so karma, cause and effect. You can't get away from karma. Okay, you've got karma coming from three different places. You've got karma from past lives, right? Your soul's past lives. And the karmas that are coming down these pipelines, you can't get away from. But what you can do is in this moment, right here, as they're coming down the pipeline, your response to that is either going to digest and diminish the karma, or it's going to perpetuate the cycle of the karma. And so this moment is our most empowered opportunity, is right here, right now, this one. And we can't do anything about what's coming down the pipeline. We can't, I mean, there are frequencies of souls like Shuswamiji and that can manipulate karma and take somebody's karma, but it always has to be digested. If you receive the grace from a Mahatma where they have taken some of your karma, they are going to have to digest that karma. It may come through them in a like there's a story of Amma, and this guy wanted to try and kill her, and so he put some poison in some milk, and it's a very auspicious thing to offer a Mahatma a glass of milk for their nourishment. And of course Amma, being omnipresent and omnipotent, knew that there was poison in this milk, and the poison would have killed her. But of course her frequency, she took it as not to reject the man, because the divine will never reject what is being offered. It's just going to create karma. So she took it and she drank it, but instead of it killing her, she just got this like crazy fever and got really, really sick for a while, and then recovered. So the Mahatmas, they're able to digest karma at a frequency where you get a cold instead of the flu. You get laryngitis instead of throat cancer. They still have to digest the karmas, but they don't necessarily, because they're not identified with it. It doesn't take hold and take over their reality like it would do in our reality, because we're so identified to the practices, to the karma, to the actions. So we have karma from our past lives. We have karma from the land where we live. So right now I have left my New Zealand karma, and I am now digesting my the karma of living in Canada in the Tanaha territory, and the karma of our families. Right? I mean, we all know, we can all look at the generations before us of our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and we can see patterns of see patterns and traits that go from one to the other, whether it's the shadow of, alcoholism or abuse or suffering or mental health or anything like that, or illnesses, heart attacks, breast cancer, these things that have been proven to be genetically passed down, or whether it's a love of food or a kindness or an affiliation for bird watching, or, we have these things that get passed down from one to another, and those are our family karmas. So it's these 3 different pies that we have, that we are in this lifetime needing to digest. If we don't digest it, it will go to the next lifetime or to the next person in the generation. So it's 7 generations forward and 7 generations back, or 7 lifetimes back and 7 lifetimes forward. We need to take responsibility for our life right now, this life. And in taking responsibility for where we're at in our process of refinement and of realization and of fulfillment as souls having a human experience, we become incredibly empowered to choose. Right? And it's here that I think we have the free will, if I'm going to go on that path. Free will, we think we have free will in our actions, but I don't think we do. I think we have fate, we have karma that has to be digested. And people would almost say that you have free will in the way that you respond, but I think the way we respond to things is so conditioned and so shrouded in mystery and in ignorance, being in the way the planets are affecting us, and in what our astrology is, in what our karmas are. We're so ignorant to the refinement, we're so ignorant to the, what am I trying to say, to the details, that it's very hard to know what is right action sometimes. And so really where our free will comes into is the courage to purify. It's the courage to do the work. That, I feel, is kind of the limitation to our free will. We don't really have a lot of free will, but we do have the sincerity of the soul, and the sincerity of our soul to be the best that we can be, the sincerity of the soul to live to our fullest potential. And all of you, I'm speaking to you, the people in the Karma to Dharma course, because you've already committed to it. You've already committed to living to your fullest potential. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So, of course, it doesn't go for everybody in the world, because they're at different levels and states of consciousness that they're not even awake enough to know that they have to do the work in order for the light to come in, or the light to be revealed, depending on which perspective you're holding in this moment. So we have this karma, and the karma comes through the Vijnana Maya Kosha. The Vijnana Maya Kosha holds the archetypes that are beyond the ego, right? Our karmas are collective, and they get filtered through the perfection of our own facet, of our own face within the diamond, of our own perspective. But the karmas are collective. And these karmas, these patterns, they come through the mind, and they manifest because of identification. Okay? So they're going to come through, right? They come through the mind, and then they manifest through the emotions, which is Swadhisthana chakra, right? Which is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is where the samskaras come through. The samskaras are the impressions. So if you think of yourself like you have you're a block of pound of butter, okay? And you are a pound of butter. No matter what shape that butter takes on, you are still a pound of butter. But when you take a handprint with the uniqueness of your fingerprints, and you push it into that pound of butter, when you look at the pound of butter, you no longer see the pound of butter. You're seeing the imprint. And that imprint is the samskara. That's the impression that you are identifying with. You are seeing the impression. You no longer really take into consideration the butter. You're taking into consideration the shape, the depth, the solidity of the impression. And then you create a belief about it. That is Shivani's handprint. That is a belief that you identify with. Now the impulse or the vasana is the drive or the desire to prove that samskara correct, which means you're innately going to want to put your hand over that imprint to see if your hand fits, or I will put my hand on it to confirm that that is my handprint. That impulse to prove a samskara to be true rather than to be an opinion or something temporary, that impulse creates more karma. Because that impulse has been identified with a belief. So when we start to want to come from out of this perpetual tornado of karma, right? Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Identification with the emotion and tracing that emotion to the belief is the main practice. Okay, so you experience something in your day. The experience makes you feel really good. You get some great news, something fun's going to happen. You get all elated, right? The identification with that, with your elatedness, I don't know if that's even a word, but your identification with that high, right? And how you let that propel your actions, that is creating karma, because what comes up must come down. Similarly, when you have some bad news or something that is not pleasant comes into your awareness, or you experience something that's not pleasant, the emotion that you identify with, you're grumpy, you're sad, you're angry, and then the words that you speak from that energy, and then all that propulsion, that identification with the emotion also creates karma. So we always, when we're looking to do this work, have to see where in our life we are going from negative, which is identification with the down, to the positive, which is identification with the up, to the neutral, which is the transcending of the identification of the dualistic state. That does not mean that you do not experience sadness or anger. It does not mean that you don't experience joy or elation. What it does mean that in the moment of those experiences, not in hindsight, because hindsight's 2020, but in the moment of those experiences, you have enough breath, enough pause, enough sattva to witness the emotion instead of identifying with it. And witnessing the emotion allows it to move through without getting whipped around for another experience of it. Okay? And that disempowers the force of the action. And when you disempower a force going in one direction, it doesn't have enough force to come back and slap you in the other direction. So you've shifted the karmic perpetuation of cause and effect. So we practice this in Ashram in Karma Yoga, where we're experiencing our actions but without the identification of the fruits of those actions. So we're like full heart, full engagement, full effort to do the very best that we can, but we're not identified with a fruit, right? And it goes both ways. So karma, I've totally lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. That would have been the child trying to walk through the lecture after being asked not to walk through the house while I'm trying to record this. And that would bring up a specific emotion in me, which would create a specific belief that would create the karma. Nobody's above it, people. Nobody's above it. So we're practicing karma yoga in the ashram so that we can experience being fully engaged and fully participatory in the human experience without the identification with the actions, without the identification of the emotions that come up while we're in action. And that empowers us to start to bring these skills out into the world. It's really hard. It's a skill, it's a practice, it's a science, because our egos are so wrapped up in our actions, and it's our ego's desires that creates the karma. Remember, Swadhisthana chakra is where the desires come through. That is where the samskaras come through as well. So these samskaras, these impressions, come through this filter of desire, and that creates a reaction, an emotional reaction that we then identify with. So this is the karma, right? The karma is the cause and effect. The samskara is the impression. The vasana is the impulse to prove the samskara to be true, rather than it being an opinion, right? So think of some hardcore beliefs you have, right? What's a belief that you have? Okay. I believe I'm a woman would be one. I mean, I don't really, but work with me, right? I believe I'm a woman. I believe I'm a mother. Okay. The belief, what if that was an opinion rather than a belief? How would that change the frequency of it? What would that feel like? What would that create? What experience would that create in you if you looked at some of these beliefs? I am a healer. I am unlovable. I am a good person. I am not a good person. I am feisty. I am, like if you believe all of these things, what happens if you take them out of the realm of belief and you put them in the realm of opinion? You get a bigger container. And that is the first step, is to see the patterns, say, is this pattern working for me right now? And if it's not, then expand the container. Expanding the container allows there to be possibility and breath. And in the realm of possibility, there is the divine. And when that spark of the divine, of possibility beyond what you know, comes into a direct experience, you start to experience Dharma. Now, there's some beautiful quotes that I have of Swami Niranjan that I want to share with you about Dharma. Okay. Dharma is the constant effort to channel divine energy into our lives. Okay. This is the process of Dharma. Constant effort to channel divine energy into our lives. So we're taking this dualistic human experience and we're constantly wanting to bring in the frequency of the divine. Now, how do we do this? Well, one of the main ways that we practice it, that we teach it, that we live it here at Niwas is, of course, mantra. Right, is a constant awareness, because if you have that constant awareness on the divine of the frequency of Sanskrit, which is the possibility, you don't come into reaction with the experience in this moment. The mind's energy that is diverted out of identification, which stops the reaction, comes into response. And response can have the quality of dharma. Reaction has the quality of karma. So we're wanting to create space, we're wanting to create possibility, we're wanting to create a thread of divine awareness through every moment of every day. And that is how we move out of the identification of karma and creation of karma into a life of dharma. There's a Sufi saying, love saying that. If you shake a flower, the vibrations are felt by the furthest star. If you shake a flower, the vibrations are felt by the furthest star. And this, of course, comes into the teaching of Atma Bhav, which is the divine law of dharma, is that everything is part of a whole. Nothing is separated from the whole. So we need to expand through the gunas the qualities from karma into dharma. Now, what does that look like? The innate quality of tamas, or inertia, in relation to karma and dharma, is that tamas wants to be superior. Okay, it wants to be superior over animals, wants to be superior over other humans. It thinks the world revolves around it. It's narcissistic, and that's the nature of tamas, right? I mean, I'm sure you can think of people in our culture that have this perspective on life, that they are superior, that they are above the law, that they're above the common people, that they're above other cultures, that they're above, this is tamasic. Okay, this is adharmic. Adharmic means not in dharma. Okay, but you can only come into dharma once you can see adharmic, right? So in the adharma, it's also part of the whole. Okay, because if you think you're above adharma, you're just back in the tamasic of being superior to the tamas. We're not superior to the tamas. Okay. The nature of rajas in relation to this is dominance, right? Is to have power over. The practices of farming is very domineering, right? It's your kid can stay, your kid can't. This is bred here, this is not bred here. It's very, you're dominated. You're not coexisting. That is being the nature of our human experience with nature, is we're dominant. We will take the trees if we want them. We will take the minerals from the ground if we want them. We're dominant over nature to a fault. And so this is the rajasic nature. The sattvic nature of dharma is to recognize your place in a bigger picture. You might not have the big picture, but just the awareness of the understanding that you are part of a bigger picture, that the person next to you is part of a bigger picture, is that expansion, is that expanding the container, that everybody has their place and everybody is moving through their cycles of karma and of identification, and that it's all perfect for the collective ascension of consciousness. Okay. Dharma is the essence of the thing, which makes it what it is. Okay. Dharma is the essence of the thing that makes it what it is. So if you look at that in terms of the elements, right? It is the dharma of fire to burn. It is the dharma of water to flow. It is the dharma of a scorpion to sting. It is the dharma of air to blow. The dharma of the human is the soul. Okay, so the dharma of the human is the soul. And there's a quote from Swami Shivananda that says, Dharma is that which leads you to the path of perfection and glory. It brings as its consequence happiness both in this world and in the next. Dharma is that which helps you have direct communion with the Lord. If you transgress, it will kill you. If you protect it, it will protect you. It is your sole companion after death and sole refuge of humanity. That is from Swami Shivananda. Okay, so Dharma is the great irrevocable law which binds us together. And Dharma is birthed from Satya, which means truth. Okay, so karma is born out of ignorance and Dharma is born out of truth. Okay, so the Dharma is our connection to the essence from within the worldly dimension. Okay, Dharma is our connection to the essence of nature, of our innate being, from within the worldly dimension. And I say that because if you, the dharma of fire is to burn, but the tattva of fire, which transcends this worldly dimension, the tattva of fire does not burn, it transforms, right? So dharma is within this worldly dimension, but it's the connection to the essence or to the immortal or to the transcendent nature from within this worldly experience. Okay, anything that is dharmic leads you to realization of your fullest potential, of living a life that transcends the duality of raga deshwa, likes and dislikes, pain and joy, transcends these things. That is the home of realization. And dharma is anything that gets you closer to that. So that is really interesting because dharma is as unique to each of us as our fingerprints. Okay, and so we have to get really inquisitive, because until we are expanded out of a certain state of ignorance of the perpetual karma that we have identified with, it's very challenging to know what is the dharma. And this is why, in my direct experience, I am very grateful to have inspirations like Sri Swamiji and Swami Satsangi, where they have their containers so expanded, so much more of the bigger picture than I personally do, that they are able to see the patterns of karma, and they are able to see the thread of dharma that goes through those, and then give that guidance or that encouragement or the sadhana to help you connect to that frequency of dharma within your particular experience of karma. I'm hoping this is making sense. It's very hard on video because I can't see your faces squinting at me like, what? Nor can you ask questions in the moment. So I hope somebody's taking notes so that they can write their questions in the forum under this lecture. Okay. So this is why there's many paths and one truth. Many paths and one truth. There is a difference to me between many paths and one truth and a free-for-all when it comes to spiritual living. And the reason for that is because a lot of times when we are declaring, well, this is my Dharma, this is my Dharma, this is my Dharma, and it may be, and I trust the map of the last 5,000 years, because our consciousness, our souls are not different now to when they were 5,000 years ago. Consciousness as a whole is not different. So the map that has been brought forth in the Vedas by the rishis is more of what I would trust and bounce my experience off when trying to discern my own dharma than me just feeling like this is the best thing for me. Because the feeling of that this is the best thing for you sometimes is born out of desire. And sometimes the desire can be very tricky as to whether it's protecting you within a wound or liberating you. And this is the process of unfurling inside of us. And this is why people who want a spiritual life, we all need teachers, we all need guides, and eventually, hopefully, we all need a guru. And no, I understand that in the traditional sense of the word guru, you can have a guru is a teacher. I do not personally prescribe, when I say guru, I do not mean teacher. I mean a being that has an expanded level of awareness, that can see the karmas and can guide to that level of development. Not a teacher who, like myself, who knows the teachings but does not have that expanded state of awareness like Swami Satsanga or Swami Naranjan does. To me, there is a difference between a teacher and a guru. I do understand that in the Indian sense of the word guru, it can also refer to any kind of teacher. But for the purpose of Karma to Dharma and anything to do with Niwas and anything to do with me, let's just go with guru is enlightened, teacher is holding the teachings, and is still human, right? So Dharma is the thread and the essence of who you are. Dharma is that frequency of your connection to the divine. And so Karma to Dharma is in the next 9 months. I'm really interested in the ways you're going to be able to directly experience, not just learn, but experience bringing more consciously that thread of the divine through your everyday life, so that you can start expanding that container out of reaction and bringing it into response, coming from the response into the non-identification with your reality, while still being fully participatory within your reality. And it's such this dance that becomes life. And it's challenging because people are brought into our lives that violently bring responses and reactions out of you that it's come out before you even realize something's happening. And that is nothing but a point of opportunity. Those moments where you react feverishly is the point of opportunity for growth. And that's all I want to see. I want you to see those parts of yourselves not as something to be reprimanded or gotten rid of or needs transforming or, you know, rejection. Ahimsa, ahimsa, ahimsa. Relax. There are points of opportunity for growth. And that means that our lives need to get a little simpler. They need to slow down a little bit. We have to start to become aware, more acutely aware of what is feeding us. What is feeding us in our eyes, what is feeding us in our ears, what is feeding us in our souls. You know, what kind of movies are we watching? What music are we listening to? What quality of pranic food are we having? What kind of conversations are we engaging in? Right? Because all of those qualities are connected to Vishuddhi chakra, which is the home of truth. And as I've said, Dharma is born out of Satya, which is truth. So Vishuddhi chakra being at the throat, which is this this ability to feed ourselves through vibration, is of course mirrored in Swadhisthana, which is where the karmas come through into this worldly dimension. The whole thing is such a tapestry of just intricate perfection. Think of the level of consciousness that could design the interconnected weaving of ecology, from the microbes in the soil to the animals, to the frequency of the trees, to the planetary influences, to the human experience. If there is one Paramatma, one energy that is the mastermind behind all of that interconnectivity, I bow myself to thee and want to experience my part of it, not my domination over it. And so this is it. Here we go. I would love to hear your questions. Let's start a discussion in the comment section underneath this. If you've got a question, start a new thread. If you're responding to somebody else's question or you're having a discussion, just keep replying. I'm really excited. This is a dream come true to share with all of you this fierce commitment to a divine life within our crazy Western world. Come on, Narayan. Here we go.